Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me pretty well. Christina, are you there? I am ready to do this video, you guys. It's something I've been meaning to do for a while now. And I'm not using this microphone, but I'm just messing with it. I'm going to give a few minutes for people to join in because I did start going live early. Also want to thank anyone who came over here from my friend with Patty Productions. He actually just did a video on my voice analysis of Chris Watts. I can show you guys what that video looks like if you haven't seen the video. It is probably personally, I feel like one of my best Chris Watts videos. I am a former journalist, if you're new to my channel. So that means I request my own reports, I produce my own content, and I do my own research. I do my own interviews. I book my own interviews. I take what I do really seriously. Due to some health issues, I had to leave the news industry. And if you know me, you know why. And we do talk. We have a lot of people on here who have autoimmune diseases and other cancer survivors. So I'm going to pull up real quick so you can see that interview if you guys did not see it yet. And then we are going to get into this new series that I'm starting called the Chris Watts Book Club. And yes, the title is a little morbid, but we're having fun with it, guys. It is going to be where we discuss and analyze some of the books that are out there about Chris Watts. So let me quickly just show you that video if you guys have not, because it is one of those videos I worked really hard on. I went out to meet with a private investigator named TJ Ward, and we did this voice analysis of Chris Watts. And I gotta remove this. Sorry, guys. Okay, so if you go to my channel under videos, you're gonna see this exclusive layered voice analysis where we take Chris Watts' confession from the CBI, and then we take the Chris Watts porch interview and we analyze that with some really high-tech technology that is 98% accurate, more accurate than a lie detector test. Patty Productions just did a review of that video, and thank you, friend, for kindly doing that and bringing some of your subscribers over to my channel. But what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to jump into the book that many people are interested in called Letters from Christopher by Sherilyn Cadle. This is the cover of the book. Have any of you read this out of curiosity? So I'm not going to lie, guys, I've read it twice. Also, let me know in the comment section if audio is okay and you can hear me pretty well. I dissected this book because it was firsthand accounts from Christopher. So I thought it was interesting. I'm going to play you audio clips from the book that I thought were interesting. There's going to be a lot of audio clips. So this video may go into a couple sections. It might be like 5 different videos where we cover chapters. So I took notes and I took clippings, and unfortunately I cannot read the book to you word for word because of copyright infringement. I don't want to get in trouble, but if you want to follow along with me and take a look, I'm going to drop the link in the comments here of the book where you can go read it for free. There's some controversy that Sherilyn Cadle wrote this book and it's plagiarized. I do believe there may be parts of it that are plagiarized, but I also know she uses actual clips. Thank you, Carrie. She uses the actual letters from Chris in the book. So I will flip and we'll like kind of look at the book pages, but also I'm going to play audio for you. So I'm going to begin with chapter 1. And in my notes, I have Chris says he wants his family to read this book so that they can understand what happened. Now, Sherilyn began writing Christopher right after the murders occurred, and her ultimate goal had always been to write some type of true crime story. And she reached out to Chris. Chris was her person. And for some reason, he decided to respond to her. So that's where we get the information in this book from. Okay. Sherilyn says that she also spoke to Cindy Watts, Chris's mom, and Jamie Watts, his sister, in order to write this book. And sometimes she used them to communicate. Yes. So Sherilyn Cadle appeared on Dr. Oz. So the book, Carrie, if you want to take a look at it, it's right here in the comments section. I have it pinned. It is free and available. Yeah, I think you can still buy it on Amazon, but I read it for free. And you don't even have to read it. Don't worry about it. We're going to go over the best clips, and I'm going to break down if you remember in college, those little yellow books called Cliff Notes. I got you all covered. We're going to do the Cliff Notes. So this was a book that Chris helped with. He was okay with. Cindy Watts was okay with. Jamie Watts was okay with. And everyone helped get this book together. So in chapter 1, Chris's mom actually had to communicate in the beginning with Sherilyn Cadle because Sherilyn needed to get on Chris's visitor list. You have to think this incident just happened. People are trying to communicate with Chris, and she wrote him 2 times and he did not reply. And then finally on the 3rd time he replied and said, Sherilyn, I decided I will do this book with you. However, I need you to give my testimony of how I was saved. So there's going to be a little bit of this and that, the religious stuff in there that Chris supposedly has turned to God. So let me know your thoughts on that. Jump in here and feel free to comment and chat, you guys. I like to have open discussion. So Cindy's, we go into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is a little more of information provided by Chris's mom. And she talks to Sherilyn Cadle about Chris, what he was like growing up. And this is what I have in my notes. Chris loved sports, and he never really showed much affection growing up, but he never caused any trouble. Cindy's mother would watch Christopher, and Cindy and her mother did not have a good relationship. However, Christopher and his grandmother really bonded. And this is important to me because later in the book, Chris gives an account of he saw 2 evil spirits, and they appeared to him in the form of his maternal grandmother. So that would mean he saw evil spirits of his grandmother, who he loved and got along with as a child, later on in prison. And if I could ask anything to Chris Watts, Cindy Watts, or Ronnie Watts, well, I mean, there's a lot of things I would ask, but one of them would be, why would Chris see something evil looking in the form of someone he loved growing up? And we'll get back to that in another chapter. So Chris grew up and went to a Baptist church. In this part of the book, Cindy talks about Chris as a child would have these OCD compulsions where he would be repenting and locked himself up in the bathroom. And he would do really odd things like that. Well, then later on down the road, he meets Shanann. We all know that. I won't kind of rehash the boring stuff. I will try to stick to the things that maybe you didn't know about in this book. So early on in the marriage, the two of them did not follow a religion. They did not attend church on Sunday regularly. Um, Chris talks about their first interaction, their first date. We all know about that. He showed up like a fool wearing t-shirt and a flip-flops, and she was dressed to the nines. At that time, Shanann said she was dealing with lupus, and Chris was being very caring. So their relationship blossoms and they move to Colorado for better opportunities. Cindy in this chapter also makes accusations that Shanann was drugging the children with Benadryl to make them go to bed earlier. That is kind of something that's all been out there, guys. Let's, be honest. My channel is an open-minded channel. We don't victim bash, but we also don't cover we don't cover up the truth. You can go for yourself and see a lot of these posts where Shanann does say she gives the kids Benadryl before bed. But in chapter 2 of this book, Cindy says it was used more so that Shanann could put them to bed early and have her own alone time. So getting into chapter 3, which I have up here on your screen, I will just kind of see if I can zoom in a little bit. And our friend with Patty Productions might drop by today. He might not. It's kind of late for him, but I sent him the link to jump up on panel if he wants to. So I'm going to go through my notes on chapter 3, and then we're going to listen to some audio clips from chapter 3. So chapter 3, Chris talks about how Shanann was working on Thrive and how beneficial it was for the family. If you go to Reddit, there's a lot of content about Thrive and how it was actually probably the worst thing that the family could have gotten into because it did put them in financial ruin. So let's play some of that audio from chapter 3, and then I'll get back to my notes. Please let me know if you can hear this clearly. Okay, so let me know. I just want to know, Carrie, can you hear my audio? Chapter 3, this is where Chris finally starts to talk about Kessinger. And he says, had Nicole not pursued him, he wouldn't have gotten involved with her. He says if Shanann didn't go to North Carolina, he wouldn't have cheated on her. He talks about how happy she was being pregnant, which is not true. You cannot hear my audio. Let's see. So that clip I just played, you did not. You don't hear the audio? Okay. Here's what here's what we're gonna do. I am gonna try something else. Okay, I'm gonna pull up my Google Drive and hopefully this will help. Um, Let me do this though, so that I can kind of protect my Google Documents. Okay, let me know if you hear this.
By telling him she wanted to give him a son. She knew she could get Christopher to feel bad for her. By telling him they didn't have any first together. She's trying to steal someone else's husband, and she is sad she doesn't have any firsts with him. She'd shared his first affair with him, but that wasn't enough.
Okay.
Did she think Shanann was ruining her life? Christopher feels this is when the idea to take the lives of his family began. He didn't want to, but knew it was going to happen. He did nothing to fight those feelings. Nikki had a group of friends.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Like I said, for copyright infringement, I'm not going to read the book word to word, but what I did is took clips, you guys, of every damn chapter that I thought was interesting, and I'll play those clips for you along with my cliff notes. So Chris in this chapter 3 starts going into detail about Kessinger. Chris says once the girls left, he was free to do whatever he wanted with Nikki. He talks about her sending sexy pictures and dark things that went on at the apartment that he will take to his grave. So, do any of you guys have a guess on what those dark things are? Because I always wonder to Chris, what are dark things? Because New Age could be crystals, and Nicole Kessinger was into geology and rocks and stones, and there are people in New Age who think stones have healing properties. I don't know why you guys look at, I got stones. I like stones. I wonder, does Chris think that that's dark things? Does Chris think yoga is dark? Does Chris think meditation is dark? That is another question that would be on my list of things to ask Chris Watts. What do you consider dark things? Again, he says, I was never looking for an affair. He spent all of July with Nikki. She made him feel bad by saying she wanted, as you heard in that last audio clip, I wanted to have a son. I wanted to have a first with you. And Chris says that this was the time he decided, I have to get rid of my family so I can be with Nicole. Was when the topic of the son came up. So does that mean that there were open conversations, you guys? What do you think? Do you think that there were open conversations where Kessinger said to Chris, you need to get rid of your family so that we can be together? I feel that she knew. Sorry, I'm texting Patty Productions real quick. If he wants to join us. I feel she knew a little more than she says that she did, guys. And I'm going to tell you, as my background in journalism, there are people that I have talked to who work in Frederick, Colorado. I will never name names. I'll use one of Chris Watts's quotes. I'll take it to the grave. I will never burn a bridge with a source. And I don't care if you believe me or not. That is kind of just the way journalism rolls. You believe me or you don't. But Kessinger has immunity. That is why she's not scared, guys. She knows she's cool. She knows she's safe. She walked in to do that police interview knowing she was okay because she got everything set up to protect herself before the cameras were rolling in the room. They knew they were going to do an interview with the cameras rolling. It's all a part of the investigation process. So let's go to a couple more of the clips from chapter 3. Carrie, yes. Could it be the sexual things that they were researching? I don't know because I can't tell you for sure, but.
By telling him she wanted to give him a son. She knew she could get Christopher to feel bad for her. By telling him they didn't have any first together. She's trying to steal someone else's husband, and
Right?
she is sad she doesn't have any firsts with him. She'd shared his first affair with him, but that wasn't enough. Did she think Shanann was ruining her life? Christopher feels this is when the idea to take the lives of his family began.
Okay.
Shanann told her friends that before she left, he couldn't keep his hands off of her. He now says if she had not gone, he does not think he would have had an affair, and none of this would have ever happened. If she had been home, he probably would not have met Nikki at that park, or ever went out with her, he says. I want to be careful about this statement he made, that it does not sound like it's Shanann's fault he had the affair, or that he killed her. Neither was her fault. She was probably tired from her early pregnancy. She got a lot of help from grandparents in North Carolina. It was probably a welcomed break for her. It was just before the trip that Christopher learned of her pregnancy. The video that Shanann posted online shows he was not happy about the news of their third child. The very same week he had started to see Nikki was when he found out Shanann was pregnant. He was caught off guard by the announcement because it had taken Shanann much longer to get pregnant the last 2 times. He said it made him feel more guilty because he had just decided to have a more serious relationship with Nikki.
Unbelievable, right? Carrie, so you ask, what did Nicole Kessinger need protection from? According to my sources, Nicole Kessinger needed protection because she knew more about what happened. Something happened Sunday night between Kessinger and Chris, a big blowout fight. And during that fight, something happened and pretty much, I don't know how to explain it. I don't even really know if there's an explanation for it, but it is the reason that Chris ultimately decided, I'm doing it. So she knew more than she said she did. She knows exactly what happened during the 111-minute phone call, and she needed protection going into that. So that is why Nicole Kessinger contacted police early on, because something that happened and something she said to Chris during that 1,100-minute conversation, she felt guilty about saying and put blame on herself. And some people may say, yeah, you are to blame. And that is why she went in to protect, set up, get her paperwork in order, had papers signed for immunity to speak. You have to remember there's a missing pregnant woman and 2 children, and the cops want to find her immediately and get the scumbag off the streets who did it. So they were willing to give Nicole Kessinger immunity to close the damn case. That's how law enforcement works. They want the case closed and they want it done. So more in chapter 3. Chris says there are a lot of dark people that are in Kessinger's life. A lot of you know that there are people that make assumptions that she was in some type of cult and the dad was a Freemason, and that is not true from the research I've done. Wade Kessinger, he is just a mechanical engineer, you guys. He does not have any background in law enforcement. They were just smart enough to ask for immunity for Nicole Kessinger, and that is why he was allowed to come to the interview in the first place. She called her dad in a panic. She knew she was screwed. So what did she do? Protected herself, figured out, okay, I need immunity. I will talk to you. I'll tell you everything I know to help you find this woman, but you have to give me protection. So after the North Carolina trip, Chris tells his family, and this is Cindy and Ronnie, if anything happens to me, it was Shanann. So he's setting up a story to make himself look good. I'm going to play some more audio, and then I'm actually going to try to go through my folders, you guys, and I have a note, if you haven't seen it, that Chris wrote his family, and it's like so dumb, where he's like, if anything happens to me, it was my wife. And so here are some of the cards, you guys, that these little love notes that Chris wrote. And you can kind of see when you read these, they are exactly identical to some of the notes that Chris wrote Shanann. Just didn't have any creative mind of his own to come up with a thought. I mean, especially for someone who had to Google what does love feel like, that, yeah. Here's some more clips from chapter 3. True. So that is kind of where he starts talking about the difference between Shanann and Nikki. And we're still in chapter 3. Okay, so there was no audio that whole time. I apologize. Okay, let's add this back to the stage.
Shanann told her friends that before she left,
Are you getting
he couldn't
audio?
keep his hands off of her. He now says if she had not gone, he does not think he would have had an affair, and none of this would have ever happened. If she had been home, he probably would not have met Nikki at that park, or ever went out with her, he says. I want to be careful about this statement he made, that it does not sound like it's Shanann's fault he had the affair, or that he killed her. Neither was her fault. She was probably tired from her early pregnancy. She got a lot of help from grandparents in North Carolina. It was probably a welcomed break for her. It was just before the trip that Christopher learned of her pregnancy. The video that Shanann posted online shows he was not happy about the news of their third child. The very same week he had started to see Nikki was when he found out Shanann was pregnant. He was caught off guard by the announcement because it had taken Shanann much longer to get pregnant the last 2 times. He said it made him feel more guilty because he had just decided to have a more serious relationship with Nikki.
No, I don't think you felt any more guilty. So I'll play some of those clips, sorry, that you weren't able to hear.
Person who accomplished a lot. Nikki, watching from the outside, was very unfair to Shanann. Nikki knew her competition, but Shanann never knew hers. Nikki went to the police early on to let them know she had been seeing Christopher. As far as it appears, her accounts of the relationship were not truthful. She went to them early on to make herself not look guilty.
Yep.
Her feelings were more than she would tell the FBI. Some things she told them were blatantly not true. But Christopher was drawn to Nikki and enjoyed being with her. She cared how he felt about things. She cared about what he thought and would ask his opinion. He was not used to this. Since this was what Christopher needed most, it wasn't the sex for the most part that pulled him in. He was much more in love with the way she treated him and made him feel like a man again. She validated his masculinity and gave him the feeling she adored, looked up to him, and valued what he had to say. Respect is what he felt from her. He did not want to let that go at all costs. He determined to hang on to someone that caused him to feel like he had never felt before. Possibly she knew how to play him and played him like a piano, but he felt like he had a voice with her, which he did not have with Shanann. He had been afraid to be himself around Shanann. He never offered his opinion and was rarely asked how he felt about anything. He commented he could not hang something on the wall in their house by his own decision without Shanann getting mad about it. Probably Shanann had always been that, but then Nikki came into the picture. He says her control and being so bossy seems to have led him where he could not even talk to her about things that were vital to their marriage. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength.
So you can tell that Chris is still talking about this woman in a way of, she made me feel like a man. She listened to me. And the unfortunate thing is Shanann actually acknowledged this in her text messages with her friends. She said, I emasculated him, I talked down to him, and I got to do better. She pretty much admitted, and I think we all as wives and husbands at times could do a better job, right? And Shanann was aware of that and wanted to work on that, but no, he didn't want to.
What is going to happen? He did nothing to fight those feelings. Nikki had a group of friends he says were involved in some very dark things. He can pinpoint a time that he could feel himself getting darker on the inside. In asking what Nikki was really like, he suggested reading Proverbs 7, verses 5 through 27, and I would see Nikki. These verses in the Bible show a very sexual woman who does not care that she is married. Wisdom will save you from that other woman, the other man's wife, who tempts you with such sweet words.
So pretty much, he is always using religion to explain things, explain Kessinger, and he's pretty much saying that she knew I was married and she didn't care. She wanted me. She was going after me.
What is going to happen? He did nothing to fight.
Sorry, guys. Some of these clips are repetitive.
Her accounts of the relationship were not truthful. She went to them early on to make herself not look guilty. Her feelings were more than she would tell the FBI. Some things she told them were blatantly not true. But Christopher was drawn to Nikki and enjoyed being with her. She cared how he felt about things. She cared about what he thought and would ask his opinion. He was not used to this.
I'm going to jump to some of my other clips here. From chapter 3, I'll just go back down to my last clip. And like I said, I apologize if some
He had a group of friends he says were involved in some very
okay, so we heard that part. So going to chapter 4, I'm going to kind of go through my notes, guys. So that was all of chapter 3. And while I get settled here and find the rest of my clips for going into chapter 4, what do you think about chapter 3? All of the chapters at this point so far. And, it's like he's not taking any responsibility. Am I shocked by that? No, not at all. So chapter 4 begins with a lot of the drama between, we'll switch the picture to the fam. Okay. Family. Okay. It begins with the family drama between Jamie, Chris's mom, and Shanann during the wedding planning. A lot of you already know a lot of this. If you didn't know, the relationship was tumultuous from the beginning, and Chris's family didn't attend the wedding. Just the grandma attended the wedding on Chris's side of the family. In chapter 4, they go over Nutgate. Cadel, the author, claims that she reached out to the Rusicks to see if they wanted to provide any detail for Nutgate and to add to this book, and they declined the interview with Sherilyn Cadel. As we know, there's text messages with Shanann and a lot of her friends, and things were not that bad because, let's be honest, Shanann still invited them to the birthday party. I think that they decided not to come to the birthday party because they just didn't feel welcome. They felt like it was an uncomfortable situation. I'm sure that, you guys have all been in a situation where you're like, oh, I think I just need some space from this situation. And that's the vibe I get from the Watts family. Cindy tells Sherilyn Cadel in this chapter about the hate she received, and she wants people to remember that Chris was never really honest with his family in the beginning. And they learned all of this information of what happened during sentencing. So I'm going to be real with you guys. There's a lot of content creators out there that kind of drive me nuts in the way they bash Cindy Watts and Ronnie Watts, because they don't understand that they never knew what really happened until after the sentencing happened. We are talking about someone who lies to everyone, lies to his mom, lies to his dad, lies to his sister. So don't blame Ronnie and Cindy that Chris here is lying to them. And to this day, he is still not sticking up for his family. He never did. He never did. There were situations where Chris could have said, no, Shanann, I am going to go take the kids to see my parents. You don't have to come, but I'm going to go take my kids to go see their grandparents. Or Chris could have stood up and said, Shanann, I'm going to take the kids to go see their great grandmother. She's not in her 90s. She's in a nursing home. She's going to die soon, and I want them to see her. No, he never stood up for himself or anyone or anything because he was such a coward. Such a coward. Also in chapter 4, Ronnie Watts connected with Shanann's family, and they all decided it would be best that they do not attend the funeral for the girls. And I want people to realize they could have showed up if they wanted to, but they didn't. They let them have their own privacy and their own funeral. The last time that they saw Shanann and the girls, it was not the day of the Nutgate debacle. It was the day of the Nutgate debacle. So think about how hard that was not to get a proper goodbye to your grandchildren. It's really heartbreaking. So I'm going to play some of those clips from chapter 4. And after these clips,
By telling him she wanted to give him a son.
we know this.
She knew she could get Christopher to feel bad for her by telling him they didn't have any first together. She's trying to steal someone else's husband.
I'm going to skip that one. Sorry, guys. Like I said, some of these are repetitive.
By telling him she wanted to give him. Shanann told her friends that before she left, he couldn't keep his hands off of her. He now says if she had not gone, he does not think he would have had an affair, and none of this would have ever happened. If she had been home, he probably would not have met Nikki at that park, or ever went out with her, he says.
Think about that.
I want to be careful about this statement he made, that it does not sound like it's Shanann's fault he had the affair, or that he killed her. Neither was her fault. She was probably tired from her early pregnancy.
What are your thoughts on that, you guys? I think eventually he would have had an affair. It doesn't matter when. It just, when the opportunity was right for him.
A person who accomplished a lot. Nikki watching
this one. I wish I labeled my files better, but I did not.
Christopher was not allowed an opinion on. He now knows there were many things with their finances that were kept from him. These are some of the truths that have been hard for the Watts family to understand. The girls' records were sealed by Christopher right after the sentencing, even though he does not remember signing them. No one seems to know why. He says it was a stipulation for his plea agreement. He was not clear-headed, and he says he still does not remember everything that happened during that time. Money could have been managed better, and he knew this.
That is definitely something I could do a whole nother episode on, is the medical records being sealed. That was something that Sandy presented to Chris through lawyers to take the death penalty off of the table. And Chris signed that. Apparently, according to there are creators who are still in contact with the Watts family, and they say that Chris doesn't remember signing it and doesn't really even remember what it said, and that his lawyer did not detail what the document was properly. So that is just interesting in itself. So there are documents all about the girl's health and all about Nico that we will never see, they're sealed for 100 years. So it's kind of crazy to think of that. Let's see what other clips I have from chapter 4. If you're just joining in, we are going over letters to Christopher.
Past, this may have worked, but now Christopher was simmering and getting up the nerve he needed. Christopher did cleave to his wife during the times of trouble between Shanann and his parents. After a while, he had missed his family, and he longed for things to be good between them. He didn't see any real reason they couldn't all be family. Cindy and her daughter-in-law did not get along well, but that certainly does not make her a murderer. Not all personalities get along, and that's okay. Cindy says she did not interfere in their marriage. Christopher said he knew from the beginning that Shanann did not care for his mother and his sister, and they did not care for her. He says he let it go on for too long. He should have confronted it, but never did. He always sided with Shanann because he knew if he didn't, there would have been trouble.
So Carrie, yes. Protecting their privacy is very important. They did not have a choice in this matter. There's speculation that the girls may have not had some of the issues that Shanann claimed they had, such as the allergies. There are conspiracy theories that Shanann never had lupus. I mean, you can go on Reddit, you guys, and read all of those theories for yourself of why maybe the documents were sealed. I will cover chapter 5.
What is going to happen? He did nothing to fight.
I will cover chapter 5, and then I'll probably break off and we'll continue this another night because I think there's 13 chapters in this book.
Her accounts of the relationship were not truthful. She went to them early on to make her...
That's Kessinger. I should probably go through all these clips
Once
too.
Shanann and the girls left for North Carolina, Christopher was free to do whatever he desired, and he desired Nikki. He and Nikki's relationship escalated fast. He said that as much as he tried to think slow, Nikki was pulling him. Christopher was caught off guard because he had never had a woman pursue him before. She lured him with lewd sex and sent nude pictures of herself on his phone. Nikki was definitely chasing him. She knew he was married and had 2 girls, but in fairness, she was told by Christopher that he and Shanann had both decided to separate. She most likely knew about Shanann's pregnancy because she spent time looking up Shanann on Facebook and the internet.
So I'm pausing it for a moment. Do you guys believe that Kessinger knew about the pregnancy?
She possibly wanted Shanann's life. Shanann had many YouTube and Facebook videos that Nikki had most likely saw. Says really bad things went on in Nikki's house. Things he is very ashamed of. Some of the things Christopher says he will take to the grave with him.
So he brings that up a lot.
Nikki had a group of friends.
Okay, we already heard that part. Okay, so I will cover chapter 5, and then we will cover the rest of the chapters probably throughout the week. And what I'll do my best is go back through these clips and make sure that they are not repetitive clips. I clipped so many that it's like even hard to keep track. Okay. Yes. NK definitely knew everything. I agree with you. I agree that she probably used her work phone to search her or searched incognito mode and knew what was going on. So we are now getting into chapter 5 of the book. And I hope you guys will do the whole book. Like I said, I cannot read it word for word because, I don't want to violate copyright policies. I just don't think that's right. So chapter 5 is all about their money issues. Chris explains to Sherilyn Cadle that Shanann was in charge of finances. We all know that. Chris talks about how they can't afford to have the girls in private daycare and that Shanann shopped a lot. He said that she would just put all of what she made back into Thrive. And at one point, Shanann made Chris pull out of his 401k so that they could pay the back mortgage payments because they were behind in their mortgage. And I apologize if this upsets you guys, but it's true. There are financial documents that are public that prove these two were in financial problems. They were. I think that Shanann had great intentions, and I blame, you don't have to agree with me, you guys, but I blame Thrive for putting this bullshit into her head because she was a saleswoman. She was a salesperson. I wish Shanann would have finished nursing school because I think she would have been fantastic at that. But I think Thrive sells a certain lifestyle of keeping up with the Joneses. And if you just go look at some of your friends that sell Thrive, they all boast the same thing. Hey, Christina, how are you doing? You can have your own flexible work schedule. I don't have to go into the office. Well, I was just talking with Kelly from What's the Obsession last night on her live stream. I don't feel Shanann had much freedom at all. I feel like she was chained to her phone, constantly thriving and pitching Thrive to her friends and anyone who would listen. And I feel like that is not freedom. I don't. And I think that she wanted so badly to be successful and do good for her family and have money. Who doesn't want to have nice things? Let's be real, you guys. Everyone wants to have a beautiful house and a nice car and go on trips. And I think she really thought that Thrive could have been that for her. But these MLMs are set up to make you fail. They really are. They're set up to make you spend more money on the product so that you're storing it in your basement, which we saw a lot of Thrive stored in the basement. And you're just spending to keep up. And I think that personally, I don't know why the Rusick family is supportive still to this day of Thrive. I would have sued the company. I would have figured it out with a lawyer. How can we sue this company? Because they are responsible for a lot of the mental downfall of Shanann's thinking and pitching to her that she could have been this successful person. And I think Thrive is the reason they ended up in debt. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Carrie B. So Chris actually did cook, clean. He did the laundry. He did the girls' laundry. He did bath time with them. I'm not going to lie to you guys. He is an awful human being, but he was a very, very, very hands-on dad. He was. And in Frank Rusick Sr.'s own words, he said that I couldn't have asked for a better father for the girls. He did. But like Christina is saying, he was living a double life. You guys, he was definitely living a double life. Also in chapter 5, Chris would say, he took this money out on his 401k. So he thought that the mortgage was paid off, but then he wasn't sure where that money actually went because he found out that the mortgage was not actually paid off and that they were supposed to show up in court for some late HOA fees or something along those lines. So he now suspects the money really went to Thrive to buy Thrive or do something, do a trip with Thrive or whatever. Chris talks in chapter 5, like we just heard, that he signed a part of the plea deal to seal the girls' medical records, and internet sleuths will tell you, like I told you, that they don't think that maybe the girls had some of the allergy issues that they did. I will never know. You will never know. I think only the family knows that. I do know that Shanann bought an EpiPen from a friend that was expired on Facebook, and it makes me wonder, why did a doctor not prescribe the EpiPen? Yes, he was very, very involved with the family. I'm not gonna lie, absolute monster. The person on our screen is a monster, but he was a hands-on dad before he started his double life. He picked him up from school. He read to them. He was very, very active. I'm glad you found my channel. Yes, a lot of you found me probably today from Patty Productions. So thank you, friend, for reviewing some of my videos. Chris in chapter 5 claims that he always felt emasculated after having a fight with Shanann. One day he got kicked out of the house. And after that happened, he felt like such a loser. He decided, I'm never going to stick up for myself again. So that's where he decided, from now on, I'm not even going to bring up anything. I'm not even going to talk about anything. And towards the end of chapter 5, Chris claims that he misses his family and craves to have the life he once had. What do you guys think about that? It's really hard to know, because we're dealing with a liar, right? We're dealing with someone who cannot tell the truth. NK being the mastermind, absolutely. She found the perfect puppet. The perfect puppet. I'm going to play you a clip of chapter 5.
Christopher was not allowed an opinion on. He now knows there were many things with their finances that were kept from him. These are some of the truths that have been hard for the Watts family to understand. The girls' records were sealed by Christopher right after the sentencing, even though he does not remember signing them.
I think we heard this.
No one seems to know why. He says it was a stipulation for his plea agreement. He was not clear-headed, and he says he still does not remember everything that happened during that time. Money could have been managed better, and he knew this.
Okay, I'll do it, guys. I'll go into chapter 6, and then that'll be like, I think that'll be a good spot to continue tomorrow. All right, guys. So chapter 6, in my notes, all about Nicole Kessinger, and that's why I'm not going to leave you hanging. We'll do some of the Kessinger content. Chris wants people to know that at first, Nikki said she didn't want to have children, but then somehow within the 5 weeks of being together, she decided she wanted to give him his first son. Chris talks to Sherilyn Cadle about how he attempted to get rid of baby Nico because of this. So this was the reason that Chris actually didn't want Shanann to have baby Nico, because it was a boy. Possibly, had it been a girl, maybe he wouldn't have done anything at all. Unbelievable. So he says the day he arrived in North Carolina, he crushed up oxycodone, 80 milligrams. And he put it in her Thrive shake. Now, you know that that she drank her shake and she got sick that night. And even Frankie Jr. says he was checking on her because she was sick and she thought she was just having like pregnancy issues, right? Like morning sickness. And it was very odd to her. But really, it was because she was getting sick from the oxycodone. To this day, Chris says he will never say or reveal where he got that oxycodone. I do want to show you guys something. And a lot of you know that I have multiple sclerosis. I have MS. I have chronic pain in my spinal cord. I'm also recovering from going through breast cancer and chemotherapy. I personally have to take oxycodone every day. And I want to show you what 80 milligrams looks like. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know how Shanann survived it. While I go grab that, I am going to play you some of these clips from chapter 6 real quick. This one's a minute long, so it'll give me a second
in her friend circle
to go grab that.
Who was ready to right before the murders. In the past, she had been in an abusive relationship, so when it was over, she deleted most of her social media. Her mail went to her father's house like she was hiding from someone. She took medications, but never told Christopher why. He suspected she was bipolar. She was in Christopher and Shanann's house twice, July 4th and again on July 14th. Christopher was off to work on July 4th, stayed the night at Nikki's, and slept late the next morning. When he was up and checked his phone, there were many missed calls from Shanann. He knew she was going to be really mad. He went outside to call her, and she was beyond pissed, absolutely furious. He decided to just go home for the rest of the day. He went back inside to let Nikki know. Now it was Nikki's turn to be angry. Weren't they going to do something later on that day? He told her no. He was just going home for the day. For the first time, she realized that she was not the number one in his life. Christopher must have been having second thoughts. Had she left him alone for the rest of that day, he may have turned around.
Okay, so I was debating whether I wanted to show this or not, but I kind of want you guys to get the gist of like how freaking serious 80 milligrams is of what he gave her. Like, I just want to repeat, if you're just jumping in, I have multiple sclerosis, which is a chronic autoimmune disease. Like you probably saw me a couple times, this is my ice pack, constantly icing my back because I have lesions in my spine that give me pain every day. I'm also recovering from chemotherapy, from breast cancer. I am a survivor. Woo! So with that, though, I am dealing with chronic pain every day. I see a pain specialist, which if any of you are having pain, I really recommend doing that. Because these are the doctors that know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Your regular practitioner, I'm not trying to be mean to them, but they don't know what they're doing when they're dealing with chronic pain. So I have to take 10 milligrams 3 times a day usually. Okay, so each one of these pills is 10 milligrams. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Chris crushed up 8 of these freaking pills, you guys. 8 of these pills into her shake in one night, and she drank all of that. I don't know how she survived it. I think she was already taking maybe medication before the baby because she was dealing with the neck surgery she had. She had the neck pain. She had lupus. So I think maybe she was used to taking the Percocet, the oxycodone. But I mean, that is a lot of freaking medication to be giving someone. I cannot believe she did not go to the ER that night. Yes, I use ice all the time. I'm sick. It's a chronic illness, but it's something I have to learn to live with. And that's why I go to my pain management doctor every month we check in. And one thing I'm looking into is trying to get stem cell therapy, because I do believe that could maybe help my spinal cord. I don't know. But until now, unfortunately, I do have to take the pain medication. So yes, it's sick. I mean, that is a lot of medication, and exactly all while he was texting Kessinger. Now he says, "I'll take it to my grave," where you got the medication. Where do you guys think the medication came from? Give me a break. We probably have a pretty good idea, Chris, where you got the medication from. Yeah, I would love one day to not feel pain, you guys. I would love it. Thank you. I really, really appreciate your kind comments. It is a struggle. If you don't see me on here some weeks, it's probably because I'm in pain and I'm just not feeling my best. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it came from Kessinger. This is not easy medicine to get. You have to jump through loops. This is not the type of medicine where I'm just going to give it to someone and be like, here, have a Percocet, right? Because every time I go to my appointment, my pills are counted. So this medication possibly even came from someone in the medical field, someone that worked in a pharmacy, because it is so monitored. It is a scheduled drug. I have to show my identification when I pick my prescription up. So Chris actually went, thank you, Carrie. You're so kind. Don't get me emotional. I'll start crying. But yeah, I love so much what I used to do in journalism, and I physically can't do it anymore. So YouTube is the best place I can come to continue to storytell. So Chris definitely jumped through some hoops to get this medication. It came from someone who had the prescription, or someone who worked in a hospital, or someone who worked in a pharmacy. Yes, and even the pharmacy workers. I used to be a pharmacy tech in college, and when I had to fill a prescription for narcotics, I mean, the pharmacist was counting it and checking it and watching me over my shoulder as I counted the medication out. Sometimes, depending on what it was, the pharmacists themselves would fill the prescription. So, so Kurt says, it depends on where you live. It's not that tough where I am. Yes. And, I don't want to make it sound like it's the most terrifying drug in the planet, because it's not. I really don't feel any different on it, except for I don't feel pain. When I first started taking it, yeah, I probably felt a little loopy, but your body adjusts to it and it gets normal. And I know a lot of my friends here, subscribers, also deal with chronic pain, and a lot of them are on like morphine pumps and gabapentin, lots of different things. But it is not the easiest prescription to get your hands on. We'll just say that. So, but I still think that he had help getting it. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we know where it came from. I can't promise you that's where it came from, but I have a pretty good idea of where it came from. I do have another clip to play for you guys from chapter 6 that we'll go ahead and play.
It to be hot, passionate love, and did some of the things that would normally turn him on. But this time their love-making felt different. He felt the guilt rush back to him, and he really didn't want to be there. When they made love, Nikki even felt it was different. They normally would have had sex 3 to 4 times a day. After that happened, she said their sex was down to only 1 to 2 times daily. When they were finished making love, she told him, "I got mad because I thought I could give you your first son. When you told me you and your wife were trying to have a baby, that made me really mad and it scared me." That made him much more confident in his relationship with her. After all of that, Christopher and Nikki went to the Bendemeer races on July 21st and camping in the mountains on July 28th and 29th.
So
Chapter 7. The last.
So I have always wondered if I had the opportunity to ask questions to Chris, or yeah, I like that comment. Yeah, who's got that much time in the day? You got lots of comments rolling in here, guys. I want to make sure I take a moment to bring up your comments. Yeah, leave Jim alone. Jim was a geologist. So hello, Maura. So I know he wasn't a pharmacist, but that doesn't mean that, maybe I would like to say, if someone's going to say that they've got dark friends, that means they've got people who would be willing to give you something that would be dangerous. And yeah, thank God that her family was there that night. I don't know how Shanann did not end up in the ER. I don't. You guys, if I take 2 of those, which I've done by accident at once, so I've taken 20 milligrams once by accident. Oh my God, I was like, my heart was racing. I just didn't feel right. I told my husband, I'm like, by accident, I took a second pill and I just don't feel right. I don't feel right. And, I just needed him to know that. I wanted to assure him that if I passed out or something, that was why. Luckily it passed. And I noticed after I ate some more food, I felt a lot better. But the scariest thing is that Shanann had no idea. Shanann thought that she was having pregnancy issues, right? She thought she was having morning sickness in the afternoon. Yes. Yeah, the medication. Thank you so much for the healing vibes, you guys. It really, really means a lot to me, you guys, because with chronic disease, I know a lot of my subscribers have chronic disease. On the outside, you can look at someone and you're like, oh, that person looks fine. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm rocking a wig right now. I rock wigs all the time because my hair is growing back from chemotherapy. And at first I was embarrassed about it, but now I'm like, I don't care. It's fun. But with chronic disease, when you look at someone on the outside, they look fine, but really the nervous system on the inside is often attacking itself. Yes. And we also know LK, she was spotting because she was messaging, I think it was Christina. I don't believe it was Nicole Atkinson. Also, if you guys haven't seen, I recently did an interview with Nicole Atkinson about her chemotherapy recovery. I totally respected her, told her, I'm not going to ask you about the case. We're not going to talk about the case. We're going to talk about your health. So if you haven't seen that, you can go to my video section and see that interview with Nicole Atkinson that I did in May She's doing well. Just like me, she deals with neuropathy issues, and she's not selling Thrive anymore. And I can tell you guys, I'm pretty happy to hear that, because personally, I just don't like the vibe of Thrive. I don't. She is selling some other stuff that is like holistic health stuff that you can go to her website and check out. I can drop that in the comments later if you're interested in it. But yes, there's no escape from chronic pain. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. Carrie, the only thing I can think of is trying the stem cells, which is not covered by insurance. So I am trying to sign up for studies. I'm trying to look for studies and look for anything like that. I do want to play another clip. Actually, my neuropathy is a lot improved because I tried this new treatment called IVIG treatment. And it is where you're getting antibodies put into your bloodstream. And I do a whole nother video on that. I want to play that clip again, you guys, just so we can listen to it one more time from chapter 6.
Desire to be hot, passionate love, and did some of the things that would normally turn him on. But this time their lovemaking felt different. He felt the guilt rush back to him, and he really didn't want to be there. When they made love, Nikki even felt it was different. They normally would have had sex 3 to 4 times a day. After that happened, she said their sex was down to only 1 to 2 times daily. When they were finished making love, she told him, "I got mad because I thought I could give you your first son. When you told me you and your wife were trying to have a baby, that made me really mad and it scared me." That made him much more confident in his relationship with her. After all of that, Christopher and Nikki went to the Bendemeer races on July 21st and camping in the mountains on July 28th and 29th.
So,
Chapter 7.
okay.
The last.
If I could ask anything to Chris Watts or Nicole Kessinger, I would say, what did you two talk about camping? Right? Like, I have to think something was plotted and planned during the camping trip. God, Christina, I talk to my friends in the UK all the time, and they cannot believe how much it costs in the United States just to freaking live. To live. It's sad. Ooh, I like this comment. Yes. Any of you, we've got a lot of people in my comments and in my subscribers who have autoimmune disease. And I do talk about that in some videos for sure. Yeah, we would have a field day. Sorry, I'm doing a text to Kelly with Watts the Obsession real quick. Okay, so he says NK really lied, and not a lot, knowing Shanann was pregnant and still continues to show us how she didn't care. And she asked, "Are we bad people?" Yeah, remember when she asked Chris Watts, "Are we bad people? We love each other, but are we bad people?" Yeah, you are bad people. I will move on. I keep saying, I'm going to stop here. But since we have 12 people, we'll keep going. We'll do chapter 7. What I think we'll do is we'll stop at chapter 8. Okay. So chapter 7 is where Chris dives into the family vacation. So picture this, right? He is like, just had this 5 passionate weeks with Kessinger, right? And how authentic is the book? I can't tell you where Cadel is lying. I think she's lying in the way she maybe describes scenery, but the letters, you can see them for yourself in the book. And towards the end, when we wrap up here, I will show you guys. I'm going to drop it one more time. You can read the book for free right now. Shit, I don't have it on me. I will drop it in the comments section again. If you scroll up, this is so interesting here. Well, I appreciate that. You can always watch me later too on the replay. If you want to read this book, you guys, I've read it 2 times. It is an interesting book. She uses his actual letters. They're handwritten letters. They're in the book. I don't really know why people have so much hate towards Sherilyn Cadle. I do think there's some jealousy out there too. There is jealousy in the fact that that he responded to her. Let's be honest, a lot of journalists and writers reached out to Chris because they want to write a book. I'll be honest, as a former journalist, I have written him a letter. I did not hear back, and it wasn't about writing a book or doing an interview with him. There was something I wanted answered, that if he could answer it for me, I wanted an answer to it. And it wasn't something I was going to share. It was just something I wanted to know the answer to. Did not hear back, and that's okay. He has the right. And I was very upfront with him. I said, I'm a journalist. I'm a former journalist. I have a question for you. I'm not trying to be your pen pal. I'm not trying to be your buddy. I think what you did is fucking horrible. Excuse my language. But I have a curious mind and I want to know the answer to this. And I did not hear back. He has a new girlfriend now. Her name is Lizzie. I do a video about, she's the only one who's been visiting him lately because the Watts family is dealing with health issues. So they're not able to go travel and visit Chris. So I do believe a lot of what is in Cadle's book, because she shows the actual letters that are in Chris's handwriting, and we can compare the handwritten letters to the cards so we know Chris's handwriting, right? So that's just my personal opinion. I think a lot of people are jealous that Sherilyn got the opportunity to do a book with him. I do. So continuing into chapter 7, the family vacation. So picture it, guys. He's just had this like bachelor 5 weeks of doing whatever the hell Chris Watts wants to do with Nicole Kessinger. And she sends him off and is playing mind games with him. We know she's playing mind games because she says to him, why don't you try to work on your relationship with your family? And I think, you guys let me know what you think. I think Nicole said that because she wanted Chris to say, no, I want to work on my relationship with you. And she wanted to feel validated and she wanted to feel wanted, because you know what happened? Chris did go to North Carolina and he didn't answer her as fast as he usually did. Of course, yes, he did. But then she got kind of pissed because he wasn't like immediately responding, because now he's back into this life where he is, shit, I got kids to take care of. I've got a wife. I'm dealing with my in-laws. I have to do things. So in chapter 7, he starts getting into the family vacation. This is where Chris says there's information that the FBI didn't have in the beginning. Chris talks about that first night. He talks about the oxycodone, which I just showed you what 80 milligrams looks like. And this is where he says he starts to notice himself, that he started acting out of his normal character. For example, when Shanann was not feeling well after the oxycodone, typically Chris was the type of person to lay with her, check on her, hold her, be with her. And even Frankie Jr. says he couldn't believe that Chris just wasn't checking on her. and made a comment to him like, what's the deal? And Chris was just brushed it off and said, oh, she's just, she's pregnant. She's got morning sickness. He decided after 5 weeks of not seeing his wife, he slept in the living room on the floor. What? Because Frankie said he was laying on the couch on his phone, and then Chris came into the living room and he was laying on the ground and said his back hurt. His back hurt. Who gives a shit about your back, Chris? Your pregnant wife is sick, throwing up in the bathroom, and you're not going to check on her? Well, we know why, because he drugged her. And what he was really doing is sitting there waiting for her to miscarry, which, if you guys didn't know this, it's very unlikely to miscarry from oxycodone or Percocet. There are moms who, like, let's be honest, if I got pregnant right now, I would have to continue my pain medication. You can't just stop it out of nowhere. You could, but you could get very, very ill from that. You have to wean yourself down and wean yourself off of it. But sometimes I actually wonder if he thought that she would die from it. And there are claims that the children were never the intended target. And part of me does think that he was just trying to get rid of Shanann, and that he didn't care whether this was the opportunity to do it. But Chris claims in the book the only reason he did the oxycodone and the Percocet was because he wanted her to miscarry Nico because it was a boy. He wanted to get rid of the boy so that he could give Kessinger a boy. He didn't even want to see a sonogram, he didn't want to, in his mind, imagine that this existed, was a male, was anything. He didn't want to know anything about it. And then his plan later apparently was to take care of everything else. But I think that part of the plan is he thought maybe she possibly could have died from an overdose. I do. And then, really, if he wanted to get rid of the kids, he knows Sandy would have taken them. He knows that. So I don't doubt that Chris possibly did try to take Shanann out with the medication. Then he would act like a distraught dad and be like, oh, Sandy, I can't take care of the kids. You take them. And then he would go off with Kessinger. That's just my personal theory on what possibly could have happened. Apparently, Carrie, there was, I think, a test done that they were able to determine it was a boy, but it was not covered by insurance because, you can have those 3D mammogram, or not mammograms, sorry guys, I'm in breast cancer world. You can get those tests not covered by insurance. So I totally agree. I think he was planning to take her out, take baby Nico out, and it didn't work. That's my thoughts. And I think that, I think he would have just played stupid and told Shanann's family, I'm too distraught to take care of the girls. You can have them. You can have them. And then he would have naturally had this relationship with Nicole Kessinger. I think the two of them talked about this. I really do. I think that they had a plan in place. And maybe when the kids got older, he would let them come back into their lives. But he damn well knew that Sandra would take those kids. He would just play the grieving husband. Oh, my wife died. And possibly they would have maybe not done an autopsy on Shanann. to find the overdose that he caused. Or he would have just lied and said, oh, she's been taking the pills the whole time. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, of course, you would never want to pay child support on 3 kids. However, he may have been able to afford it. I don't know. But I do damn well know that Sandy would have taken those kids, and he knows it. So Chris also talks about the girls started to sense that his spirit was dark. These are his own words in the book. And a lot of you have seen the videos of them at the beach, running back and forth from the waves. And they're just not interacting with their dad the way they used to. Frankie Jr. even says that there's a time when that Shanann goes out to the porch to take a phone call and the girls run after their mom. And he says, what are you, like chopped liver, Chris? And Chris is like, yeah. So I thought that was extremely interesting because they do say that children have a sense of evil and bad things. So did they sense that something had changed in him? He talks about it in the book. He says when they returned home from Colorado, they were going to go to the first ultrasound. And that is when his hate began to brew. He was pissed. This was making it real. Not only was he pissed about the ultrasound, he was pissed his plan didn't work. He was mad that his oxycodone didn't do what he planned it to do. So he was angry. You think about the fact, I believe they drive back to Colorado, I think? Or did they fly back? I can't remember off the top of my head. But I imagine that was a very uncomfortable ride together. And then also Nutgate happened during that trip. So you got to remember that too. Let me see if I have another clip here. I guess I don't for chapter 6, but are we in chapter? No, we're in chapter 7 already. Okay, hold on. I gotta go to my folder for chapter 7. Stand by and discuss in the comments section. Chapter 7 folder. Oh, guys, I got a lot of audio clips for chapter 7. Okay. So, okay, Morris says, Jen, when Chris Watts turned up at the airport for the last holiday, yeah, their demeanor changed. And remember, like, he kind of looked at Shanann's belly like, oh, shit, you're still pregnant? It's like, yeah, dumbass, she's still pregnant. Okay, says, angry each failure yes, he just got angry each time because I think Chris probably made this attempt more than he even confesses to. That's just my opinion on that. Okay, we'll play some clips from chapter 7.
Even his 3- and 4-year-old girls' spirits noticed the darkness in him. Their pure spirits could see or sense his dark spirit, and they did not have much to do with him. They did not want to hold his hand or walk and play with him on the beach. Normally, they loved playing with their dad, and he loved playing with them. Not during these days, however. They basically didn't want anything to do with him, and he really didn't want much to do with them. The first time ever he felt that way about his kids. Children can see things sometimes that adults cannot. They are innocent and pure. It's a belief in the paranormal community that infants and small children are much more sensitive to someone that is evil or has evil intentions. It's believed they have a more open mind, as they don't have the mental barriers adults have developed. In order for a spirit to be seen by a human, the human needs to be open and non-judgmental. That describes children. The world hasn't touched them yet. Maybe to some point, they still belong to that sweet, sinless spirit world from which they come.
Yeah, Carrie, could that have been another plan, even when he is questioned with the lie detector and Tammy Lee asks him, what is a way you could kill someone? He's like, you could make it an accident. You could make it a trap. Those are like the first things that come out of his mouth. So that makes me think that was probably his original plan, is possibly to make it a car accident. Unbelievable. What do you guys think about children sensing darkness? Do you feel that that is true? I know that goes into something a little more paranormal than factual based, but I truly do believe that dogs sense things about people. I do. And I think that probably children that are open to it as well they feel and sense things that we as adults don't. Jen, when Chris Watts and Shanann Watts got engaged, Cindy was jealous about the expensive ring. Yes. And she said that, yeah, he says that, I'm not sure when you jumped into the live stream, but we covered that in chapter 2. You know, she got really like, well, I didn't get a ring like that, instead of being like, congratulations, you know. And I think that is just sometimes moms baby their boys, and like that is one thing, you know, I'm just like got to be mindful of, is respect your child's opinions and trust them to make the mistakes that they need to make. This was a huge effing mistake, but it happened. So I'm going to play another clip from chapter 7 for you.
Nikki sent him a text telling him to take this time to fix the issues with your wife and enjoy time with your family. This gave him a warm feeling of no pressure, and he loved her for it. The first night Christopher arrived in North Carolina, Shanann needed something for a really bad headache, so Christopher told her he would get her something. Thinking she was taking an over-the-counter pain reliever, he gave her 80 milligrams of oxycodone. He said the pill made her sick, and Shanann was up vomiting most of the night. He didn't help her because he wanted her to lose the baby. He felt he had given her a large enough dose to miscarry. He texted Nikki that he wouldn't be able to call her, just text her. She replied to him with, "Why not? Are you with her?" He thought,
well, duh. He's on a family trip, you moron. Yeah, he's with her. The one thing I feel like Chris is lying when he says he gave her something, because like, as I just showed you guys, these pills, they usually they don't make an 80 milligram pill. They just don't. And I don't think Shanann would take a pill that she didn't know what it was. She just doesn't seem like that type of person. So I think he probably gave her a Tylenol or an Aleve or something like that. But then he grinded and crushed up the medication and put it in her Thrive shake, is what he did. Yeah, I agree. I think that Bella would have been a great mom and nurse, and I definitely can sense that that girl had the shyness about her makes me feel like her soul, and I'm sorry if I'm getting too deep and people like don't believe in all this, but I feel like her soul knew something in this lifetime was going to happen, and she didn't know what it was, where it was going to happen, and what it would be, because she had such a timidness about her that I just felt it when I watched her videos, when I looked at her expressions. That's just the vibe I got from her. I have another clip from chapter 7 we can play.
Even the girls were on his nerves. He had very little patience with them. It was blatant. Anyone around him would have noticed he was aloof and unfriendly, which was very out of character for Christopher. But even his 3- and 4-year-old girls' spirits noticed the darkness in him. Their pure spirits could see or sense his dark spirit, and they did not have much to do with him. They did not want to hold his hand or walk and play with him on the beach. Normally, they loved playing with their dad, and he loved playing with them. Not during these days, however. They basically didn't want anything to do with him, and he really didn't want much to do with them. The first time ever he felt that way about his kids. Children can see things sometimes that adults cannot. They are innocent and pure. It's a belief in the paranormal community that infants and small children are much more sensitive to someone that is evil, or has evil intentions. It's believed they have a more open mind, as they don't have the mental barriers adults have developed. In order for a spirit to be seen by a human, the human needs to be open and non-judgmental. That describes children. The world hasn't touched them yet. Maybe to some point, they still belong to that sweet, sinless spirit world from which they come.
So I know I played that clip for you guys. Sorry. Like I said, I'll go through my clips again and find the repetitive ones and try
to hurry to meet Shanann for an ultrasound.
Okay. So this is when he talks about, like I said, they get back home, and that's when he is pissed. He's pissed because his plan didn't work out. He's pissed because Nutgate happened, and he is just, he's done. He's angry. So this is a feeling that is not normal to him, for him.
Which should have been a joyful time for them, was met with almost a hatred for her and the baby. As they were doing the ultrasound, he could see a new life moving. He felt indifferent and cold towards Shanann and the baby. He did not let the event register in his mind. Here was his son, the son he has always wanted, but he felt nothing for him. Shanann reached out to take his hand in support, but he pulled away. He wanted no part of her or this baby. He wanted a different life. Christopher went back to work, and things carried on as they had before they left. He tried to act as usual around his coworkers. Shanann believed they were better, or at least taking small steps toward getting better. When he met...
Right. He wouldn't even hold her hand at the ultrasound. That's crazy to me. Like, that is just crazy. Like, imagine she probably got in the car after he went to work, and she went and just bawled her eyes out.
He was thinking about killing her and the girls. At what point does a person allow their fantasies to change?
Okay, so here's what, sorry, I jumped ahead. So in my notes here for chapter, we're in chapter 7. He, because of his reaction, she is so hurt that she decides she is canceling this gender reveal party. And I will not go into details, guys, about like Nicole Atkinson's text messages with Shanann, because Nicole is a friend of mine and I'm very protective over her, and I don't even really like bringing her up in this case. I understand she has a big part in it, but obviously, she had a part in the reveal and all of that. So Shanann is feeling uncomfortable and decides, like, I'm not doing this gender reveal party. And the one thing I will say is Nicole Atkinson is a very positive person, and she was trying to support Shanann and say, like, this is still your baby, you know, like, kind of like, screw him, you know, like, this is still your baby. This baby needs love, you know. She's trying to give her friend the power to have the confidence, even though as a friend, what do you tell your friend? Like, my husband didn't hold my hand during the ultrasound, right? Like, I think even at that point, all of the girlfriends had to be like, yeah, something's up. So Chris says after he left the ultrasound, that is the point. He says that was the turning point for him. And he started thinking about killing the family, which I do not believe is entirely true, because later on in another chapter, you will hear Chris say that he was spending weeks planning the murders of all of them. And this ultrasound was not too far off from August 13th, right? I don't have the exact date on me, but I don't believe that this was when he first started planning, you know, the murders. I think he's kind of lying to Sherilyn Cadle in this part. Nicole is a effing hero. She absolutely is. Yes, if it wasn't for her, the whole case would have fell apart. And I think on a personal level, I'm just very protective of her, because I don't think she gets enough credit and support that she should get from people around her in her life, in regards to this case. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's, yeah. I just can't imagine. I think, oh man, I'm gonna try to just keep my mouth shut. That's what I'm gonna try to do. Nicole Atkinson should like be living in a freaking mansion, being taken care of fully, and that's just all I'm gonna say. So Chris claims, you know, this is when he started to think he's going to take them all out, and decides, all right, we went to the ultrasound. She's going to tag me in the Facebook post, so I got to delete my Facebook. So he decides that he's going to delete Facebook, and that is when he deletes Facebook. And that to Shanann is a huge red flag, right? Like, you know, they do their business. He helps with Thrive. They're both on Facebook. Then later that night, Shanann says, could we go to Aspen? And he agrees with her. And he said he knew he wasn't going to be going to Aspen because he was going to kill his family. How scary is that? He said that he literally just told her yes. But we know from the discovery, Chris was looking up Aspen. But the delusional freak was looking up Aspen because he was going to take Nicole Kessinger there. I can't wrap my mind around the fact that he thought he was going to even have that opportunity. It blows my mind.
Felt God gave him 3 chances to.
Now, this is very, very important in my opinion. We'll get here in a second. Chris talks Shanann into taking her trip to Arizona. This is when Shanann was like, to the point where like, you know what? maybe I better not go to Arizona. We spent 5 weeks apart. You came here, and things are just still not going well with us. Maybe I'll stay home. And Chris says, no, go to your trip. Go on your trip. And the reason he did that is because he wanted more time with Nicole Kessinger. He pushed her. He was scared that she was going to stay home. Yes, I agree with you totally about Nicole Atkinson deserves a lot better treatment from a lot of people. And I'm going to say it in the damn case itself. All people involved in the case. And that is just my opinion. So he talks her into going on the trip, and she goes, right? So here is important part. This, to me, honestly, you guys, is probably one of the most important parts of the book, most interesting parts of the book to me that I think a lot of people don't know about. Chris claims that he had 3 chances to turn his whole life around, and he claims he ignored them. And one of them is when he is on his way to Kessinger's house, he's driving along and the steering wheel just jerks to the side of the road. And he says he can't explain why it happened, but he felt that was God telling him to turn around. He said it freaked him out, but he still did not turn around and go home. And we're going to play this clip where he talks a little bit about that.
He felt God gave him 3 chances to turn around from the affair and the things he was planning in his mind. He had those chances to turn everything around, and none of these things would have happened. One evening on his way to Nikki's house, he felt God urging him to turn around and not do this, but he kept going. Knowing the whole way there he should turn around and not go to her place. All of a sudden, his car started to skid like it was going to run off the road. He almost lost control, knowing immediately God was trying to turn him around. There was no other explanation for why he started to lose control of his car. He knew this was the first chance God gave him to get out of the situation. Christopher put it well when he said, "We always think something new feels better than something old." It didn't take long for Christopher to find out the old was much more appealing and comfortable than the new. When Christopher talked to Shanann during that 5-week period that she was in North Carolina, he became more and more distant with her. As much as possible, he would ignore her calls and texts and come up with excuses for why he didn't answer her. He was building that wall between.
So yeah, some of you have not heard that before. Yeah, this was something that really stood out to me in the book. So that is where Chris claims God gave him one warning sign that he ignored. The car skids off the road with no explanation. And he felt that was God telling him, turn around, don't do this, don't do this. Because we're going to be going into chapter 8, I'll stop there and then we can continue another day this week. You guys tell me what day works best and I'll make it work. It'll be after 8 p.m. when I put my kiddos to bed, but you let me know what days work best. If you are not able to watch the rest of me covering these chapters, I will give you the other 2 chances that Chris claims that he had to turn his life around, just because, I'm not going to leave you hanging, and you can always go back and watch the replay. So Chris claims the steering wheel jerking was number 1. He says number 2 was that Jeremy invited him to the Rockies game, and he had never been invited to, or was it the Rockies game, or it was a different game? Because they went to the Rockies game. He went with Nicole to the Rockies game. I can't remember what the other game was. It was a professional game, and he had never been to one before, and he was like, oh my God, like this opportunity, I should take it, I should go. And he did not. And he feels that that was God telling him, go with your friend. Because he felt that if he were just around Jeremy and were talking, because Jeremy had also had some issues once before in his marriage, he feels that if he would have dished to Jeremy how he was feeling and what he was going through, Broncos game, thank you. That's why I love my subscribers. If you subscribe. But they're always there to help me out when my mind goes blank. So he had the opportunity to go to the Broncos game. He's never been to like an NFL game. He's like psyched. He couldn't believe, and he's going for free. And instead, he goes to the Rockies game with Nicole Kessinger. Do you think it would have turned things around? I don't think it would have. I think he would have just done it a different week. I think that this was like a compulsion in his mind, just like serial killers do. And he was going to do it no matter when and where. Eventually he was going to do it. Okay, so that's chance 2. Chance 3 is a little more disturbing. I'm going to warn you. Later on in the book, thank you. I appreciate that. And if you guys can do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button for this video, it shares it out into the algorithm. And because I haven't been consistently doing videos, I am hurting for views a little bit. So I appreciate that if you do hit thumbs up for me. The third chance, gonna warn you, is a little disturbing, but I think a lot of you already know this story. Wouldn't it have been weird if they got caught on the kiss cam like that other couple did recently? So thank you guys. I really appreciate the thumbs up because it sends it to the algorithm. So chance number 3 was Chris claims to Sherilyn Cadle later on in the book. I cannot remember what chapter it is, but we will cover it because I'm going to cover all the chapters of the book. That he put the girls to bed, shuts the door, knows to himself, this is the last time that I'm going to say goodnight to the girls, goes and does something, comes back and smothers both of them with a pillow shortly after Shanann arrives home. And he claims he knows for sure that they were not breathing. And so then Chris, after taking the daughters out by smothering them with a pillow, goes and strangles Shanann. And Chris says that is when Bella woke up, walks into the room and says, what happened to mommy? And then eventually a couple minutes later, Cece wakes up and she's screaming and she's kind of crying because Bella's a little upset. And he says in the book, he'll describe it to you. They look like they went through something. Their eyes were very bruised because they were I don't know if he was pushing down on them or what he says, but Chris claims that was the opportunity that he could have said to himself, well, I will just not do this again. I will let them live. So he says God in the book, he says God woke the girls back up, brought them back to life. He says he knew they were dead. He claims that was his moment where he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky they're alive. And then you hear him in the FBI interview say, I'm such a terrible person because I did it again. So those are the 3 chances that Chris claims he had: was the car going off the road, the invite to the Broncos game, and the girls waking back up after he smothered them. Terrible that he claims he had 3 chances and didn't listen to any of those chances. At the end of chapter 7, Chris talks about being confronted by Shanann about the affair and about Chris becoming more and more distant. So let's see if I have any more audio clips. I think that is the end of my audio clips for chapter 7. I went a lot longer than I anticipated, but yes, I mean, can you believe it, you guys? They woke up. If that really happened and they woke up, you could have let them live. But you guys let me know what days are best, and if you can't catch it, you can catch the replay. So I will go through, we'll start at chapter 8 next time. Yes, I'm with you on that. I don't know whether to believe it or not. I kind of want to run his voice analysis again on some other audio clips I have of him. And if you haven't seen that video, you guys, I really, really suggest that you go check it out, where I meet with a private investigator, TJ Ward. And I'll just show you just a little snippet of it. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth to go meet up with Mr. TJ Ward. And we are going to,
at the light, turn left onto Sugarloaf Parkway.
Do some analysis on the Chris Watts audio. So I cannot wait to see the technology that TJ has and to see what it can do.
They just changed this program. That's crazy.
Talk to a lawyer. I mean, we could record it, but before I distribute it anywhere, to make sure there's no liability. And probably suspenders is a good spot.
Oh, look at that. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well.
Here's the voice analysis. Here's the screen.
So you guys can watch this. It's a 22-minute video. And as you can see, we run his audio. You can see where he is lying, because it will say high risk statement, inaccuracy, low risk if he's telling the truth. There are, some parts that I don't put in the video because I'm still trying to kind of work on this. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am trying to build my channel, and I'm not going to just throw out all of my best content yet. I'm trying to build a community and build more, especially when there's other channels reviewing my content and getting hundreds of more views than I am. It can be kind of a bummer sometimes. But a lot of people are asking me, please do Nicole Kessinger's audio. It's something that TJ Ward and I are discussing. And if I can do it in a legal way without risking being sued, I will do it. I will keep you guys posted. But if you have not seen the video, I highly suggest go and watch it. It's a good video. It's great technology. It is like legit stuff. It's awesome. You can see the porch interview where he is just lying his ass off. The machine goes crazy with, inaccuracies, high risk statement. And then when he's talking to the CBI later, it is low risk, low risk, low risk. And this is kind of newer technology. To some people, it's been around for 20 years, but only certain people actually have access to this program. And Private Investigator TJ Ward is one of those people. I thought about even sending the raw video to CBI. I don't know if they'd have any interest in it because I feel like they're kind of done with the case. They do not have this technology themselves. They have lie detectors tests, but they do not have the voice analysis. From what I know, because only a small amount of people in the country actually have access to this, and TJ happens to be one of them. So if you haven't checked out that video, please do. And join me later this week. We will continue our What I Am Calling book club, Chris Watts book club. And thank you guys for joining me. I really, really appreciate your support. And I'll see you guys soon.